The marshals learned to pack those shells full of fire. Kid's surprised when I tell him there's only one core left. I shouldn't have believed it either. Behold, the Pantheon. Hard to forget Prosper Bluff, ain't it? Used to take an enterprising man or a plain old fool to venture out that far. The city was the most beautiful place in the world. We all knew that. But on the other hand, some folks just yearn to see the things they're told they can't. And that's why you go to Prosper Bluff, ain't it? The other kid hears something he ain't heard in a long while. How's it go again? Yeah, that's the one. Well, no point explaining what happens next, right? Suffice it to say, kid ain't coming home empty-handed. And besides, it's like the song goes. They'll be here before too long. We darn near celebrated when the kid got back, didn't we? Zolf never thought he'd see a fellow Ura again. We become fast friends. Calamity has that effect on people. But there was more to be done. There was one last core to find. Most of the Ura never got a taste of Caelondia's fine goods, unless they were born and raised in the city like Zia here. Girl tried to run away from home one time, but the marshals stopped that, didn't they? So many secrets in there and she can't even read it. Her father's own journal. A scientific journal written in Zolf's native tongue. He learned so much from it. Too much. Zolf's the talkative sort. At least he used to be. He ain't all that shy. If only I'd known half the secrets of the Calamity were tucked away in that book, I'd have worked to translate it right away. Come on, give the little tyke a break. We tracked the final core beyond the city to the wilds. The wild unknown. Place can eat a man alive. Place is so raw, even the Calamity couldn't cook it. Not all of it. Know what's better than having to sling a pistol in a fight? Having two. Savage things lurking at every turn. Pincushions ain't the worst of it either. By now, kids got more needles in them than stab weed. Pecker's got the core, like they're building a bastion of their own. The welcoming committee scrambles to attention. Didn't expect the kids so soon. Kid learns the hard way not to touch those things. They shouldn't have let the guard down. The core's right there, itching to come home. Getting that core was one thing, getting out's gonna be another. He digs his way out of the clearing, but the wilds won't let him go without a fight. Wallflowers survive the calamity. It toughened him up. Good thing pincushions can't see where they're shooting. Kid's faster than a slinger with those guns. Don't ever turn your back on a pincushion. Slinger Jawson's old outpost is all that's left of him. Kid's roused up half the wilds by now. Then Kid gets the feeling he's being watched. Not by me, by a lunkhead. A handful of windbag shipments made it out this far. Kid's seen the last of them. Pow gives a wallflower a taste of its own medicine. And lunkheads ain't fond of two-legged animals. Hardly any signs of the old Jawson camp. Wild green vine apples about the only good thing out here. Sees a smooth black stone coughed up by the calamity. Be seeing plenty more. He's anxious to get back. The wilds already reclaimed this place. After all, he's got the final core. His journey's over, right? Well, no, it ain't. Not by a long shot. Kid knows something's up when we ain't there to give a warm welcome. See, Zolf and I were just wrapping up a heated discussion. Zolf can barely muster the words. The calamity failed, he says, but I will not. And with that, Zolf leaves us here, alone. When Zolf got through reading that journal, he just snapped. Started smashing up the monument till I tried to stop him. Zolf cursed the city, cursed the Bastion, cursed me, said he was going home. Never could ask for a song. Been meaning to put up some guardrails. Zolf banged up the monument pretty bad. But there's a way to put her back together. The shards. We're gonna need all of them to nurse the Bastion back to health. The city brought the shards to the wilds. Now the kid's gonna bring them back. You have to think fast to survive the wilds, and none thought faster than the slingers. They could shoot their pistols with the speed of a machine. They knew just when to start shooting and when to stop. Those pistols could spit out rounds just as quick as you could pull the trigger. Learning to hold your fire could be its own challenge. The slingers were much quicker than the average pistolier. Well, even the slingers weren't quick enough to escape the calamity. Oh, his manners ain't so bad. Takes a lot of moving pieces to make a dependable sidearm. After Zolf's little episode, Kid sets off in search of shards. First stop, Jawson Bog. You'll get lost in that bog, I told the kid, and I won't be able to guide you back. Well, I let him go. What else could I do? What could any of us do? Zolf put us in a real bind. Hurt the Bastion bad. But the shards can make it better. They're like smaller doses of the core's medicine. Shame the only place to fill that prescription is out here in the wilds. This place is intoxicating. Don't know where he's gone. Might be gone for good for all I know. Wherever he is, it's somewhere I've never been. Somewhere I never want to go. The dead welcome him with open arms. Kid pops him good. That a survivor? No, ma'am. It's a lonesome ghost of a gas fella. What do you say to a kid who's seen too much? I'm Zolf of the Ura. Pleased to make your acquaintance. Now the kid sees something stranger still. Did anybody else survive? Sure enough, he finds peckers, lunkheads, wallflowers, pincushions, vine apples, swamp weeds, ankle gators. Now the Bastion can send them even farther into the wild unknown. Kid sets foot inside one of Ceylondia's famous watering holes. He has the nerve to flash the shield he stole. The security's just gonna have to straighten him out. Kid succeeds where the calamity failed. Would you look at what he did to poor old Rondi the bartender? Proper story's supposed to start at the beginning. It's so simple with this one. Now here's a kid whose whole world's alright, snoozing there on a rock in the sky. He wakes up. I'm just fooling. He sees what's left of the rippling walls. Years of work undone in an instant. He sees what's left of Pith, the bull. The gods, they're all undone. He sees what's left of his lifelong friend. His friend, he's come undone too. what's left undone. Thought we'd lost him, but he finally comes to. The shard ain't lost either. Not anymore. Now to find a ticket out of this hole. Bootlickers dig their nasty thorns into his heels. Disgusting things. Ever heard of a lung blossom? It's bigger than the stories say. The breath on that thing, like a scumbag sprung a leak. They say one whiff of lung blossom can make you lose your mind. Mother only knows what happened in the bog. Kid never much cared to speak of it. A shard is like a poor man's core, but beggars can't be choosers. That's it. A few more shards like that, and we'll be back in business. A single shard can breathe new life into this place. The shard's got enough juice to spruce up any of these places. Now, whale ale ain't made from real whale, but it'll make you strong like one. Just the occasion to crack open the distillery's private reserve. The city tried to use the shards to stake out the wilds. So much for that plan. Ankle gators used to roam the wilds, and they nested at Rothus Lagoon. Many a tale folks used to scare their children straight originated here. All kinds of beasts what don't know up from down, still lurking about. Only the city's brushers knew their way around the lagoon. Even the brushers learned to fear this place. They used to think that ankle gators were extinct. Well, they ain't. One of them's been living in the tall grass. They called her Queen Anne. Turns out Queen Anne got a hold of a shard. Ankle gators love shiny things. The lagoon's got plenty of other dangers, of course. Can't fight Queen Anne without the proper tools. Know what smells worse than an ankle gator's breath? A stinkweed. The brushers use their pikes to keep their distance around here. Now the kid can do the same. They say you can't hurt an ankle gator unless it's raining, and it ain't raining. Sharp sticks make Queen Anne nervous, so she backs off a bit. Kid's got a mean throwing arm. Those pin cushions been living off the ankle gator's scraps. Queen Anne can't fit down some of these narrow paths. Queenie leads the kid into some kind of twisted trap. One bad step in that tall grass and he's Queen Anne's lunch. He holds his ground. Seems the Queen's running out of options. The closer you get to an ankle gator's lair, the thicker the tall grass grows. Kid's gotta make a run for it. Those leaping lunkheads don't like Queen Anne any better than the kid. That's ankle gator country for you. That old gator's right on his tail. Queen's got one mean bite. Queenie must have scared a bunch of peckers out of hiding. best not to feed the local wildlife. Seems even stinkweeds know to stay away from the queen. Ankle gators don't much care for their young. That's why there ain't many around. Wanna know how to find an ankle gator lair? You use a kid as bait. Now she's coming for him. She's got nowhere else to go. The shard's sitting in plain view. They say if you run across an ankle gator, you better keep running. And now he's made her mad. Rest in peace, Queen Anne. That was for the brushers. He's got it, and he's home free. Kid's done what needed to be done. Queen Anne's reign is over. We even got a crown jewel. They said Queen Anne was just a folktale. Now there's living proof she ain't. We talk a little here and there. That gator's a crazy gal, but so's the gal who promised to look after her. He ain't big on small talk. Want to keep the wilds at bay? Bag yourself a musket and a pike. trouble for a single shard, but you know what? It was worth it. The Gravers, the arm of justice, they seemed unstoppable. Ain't saying much, but that's the greatest forge in all the city. Black rye is like hot pineapple chowder on a cold day. Brings back memories. The next shard should be farther out there in the wilds. To prepare for the wilds, Ceylandia's brushers practice at Camp Dauncey. Had to navigate a maze of pincushions with nothing but a pike. It's a dangerous test for a dangerous job. Sometimes the course was brutal. The brushers were Ceylandia's field agents, and their training was harsh. You had to find a path through the maze as quick as you could. One well-placed throw could take out several of those ugly critters. Just getting through the course in one piece was an accomplishment. You can see why the brushers prize those pikes of theirs. To fix a brusher's pike, you just need a good length of knife bark. Don't want that thing leaving your hands until you decide it's time. Know how Caelandia became the richest city in the world? 2 words. Point Lemaine. If the wilds could ever be tamed, it was gonna happen right here. But now, the greatest outpost past the city line is nothing but a freak show. The army's triggers once had the place on lockdown. Kid might as well pick up where they left off. Blam, just like my fighting days. Gun like that can even put the wilds in check. Point Lemaine seen better days for sure, but it ain't done. Whole place shudders in a fit. The grand rail of Point Lemaine, not only is it still there, it still works. Of course, it's no longer shipping hides and alloys and spices, but it can give the kid a lift. Just as long as he can stay clear of the trouble on the tracks. Grand rails all grown over with things the Calamity chewed up and spat out. Things eager to take back their turf. Kid don't let so much as one of those things slip by. Lunkheads settled in like they own the place. Not much wiggle room up there near the rail. Caelandia lost many good men on the rail. Takes fancy footwork on the rail, what with wallflowers coughing fungus everywhere. Place used to be closed off, but now it's split open like a rotten pineapple. Of course, the Grand Rail's seen much more fighting in bygone times. Near on 50 years ago, first shots fired in the Caelandian War It was right here that Zolf's forefathers decided to mix it up. Okay, so maybe we didn't get their sign-off on the whole Grand Rail thing. That was bad. The rail must have shook the Ura to the bone down in those dens of theirs. Well, the rail won't last much longer now that the kid took the shard. It's still got one good run in store for him, though. All the rotten wood there on the rails turned it into Swampweed Central. Ever tried dancing side to side while holding your breath? While shooting a genuine registered army carbine? While choking on swampweed? While peckers trying to prick you in the eye? Well, let me tell you, it ain't fun. But then, at last, it's the end of the line. He'll be picking swampweed out of those boots for days. Turns out he's got company up at the rail station, waiting for him. Not just another wallflower or pincushion, mind you. At first he thinks it's Zulf. Turns out he's wrong. This is for you, says the man. Then wham! When the kid comes to, the man's long gone, but something else is there. The only words kid recognizes on that parchment are for Zia. Well, what's a kid to do? He took the shard, he took the hit, and he took that note. That note cuts straight to the heart of things, don't it? The note says it plain. Zia, go east to learn the truth about the calamity and our people. I'll be waiting. Sincerely, Zulf. Finding gourmet ingredients ain't easy these days, but we'll take what we can get. You don't know what to say. Zulf's messenger was one of his people. Wonder just how many of them survived, and what exactly Zulf told him. Keep your chin up, kid, I tell him. It ain't too late to unlock the potential of this place. Sometimes a brusher's pike just ain't enough. That's what the carbine's for. That's the way to make every shot count. The arsenal's complete, in case we need protection. It wasn't fixed, it was unbroken. The shards are getting harder to find. Not everything blew up in the calamity. Why, Colford Cauldron here blew up way ahead of its time. Best to keep out of the cauldron. The cauldron boiled over some 300 years ago. They say it filled the skies with ash and the lakes with molten rock. If you wanted to survive something like that, you had to learn to adapt. So in a way, the beasts of the wilds, they're all survivors too. It takes a certain stubborn pride to keep on living in a place like this. As for us, we learned an awful lot from Culford Cauldron. That learning led to some interesting inventions. The raw power of the world fell right into our hands. Playing with the cauldron's fires became an addiction. Can't fault our people for their natural curiosity now, can you? Sure, we dusted off a good many secrets out here. But we discovered other things we're better off not knowing. The unforgiving scent of sulfurous dirt. The taste of air so hot it sticks to your lungs. All sorts of awful things crawling underfoot. You can cook those things, but you can't eat them. Never thought we'd find so much life in all that ash. The more ash we swept aside, the more life we found. Place as inhospitable as they come. But still we pressed on. We kept on sifting through the cauldron's secrets anyway. We looked down inside Colford Cauldron. Looked down through all the smoke and flames. We saw in there the heart of the world, the heart now laid bare by the calamity. We had to have it. As for the kid, he just has to get that shard out of there. Too bad taking that thing woke up every last stink eye from here to Charleston Bog. Kid's thinking he's gotta trek all the way back around the cauldron. Luckily, the cauldron cooked up a little shortcut for him. Sure, it ain't the most convenient path. Biggest stink eye he's ever seen's waiting for him on the other side. Pops open on him like a pimple on a school day. And where there's one stink eye, there's always more. The cauldron's tenants all gather up to bid the kid a fond farewell. Kid don't shed any tears for him, though. With a good spyglass, you can still see the cauldron from the city, but all the fires died out. There's nothing left of it. He comes back looking like the inside of a chimney. The shard works like a charm. You can hear the monument's heartbeat again. We need an awful big lost and found under the circumstances. We're all a little short on friends these days, so that's a welcome sight. Gotta watch your fingers around that little guy. Kid arrives just in time to sample Zia's famous cooking. He wolfs down too much too fast, and it all goes to his head. I've said a lot about the kid, but he ain't the only one wrapped up in all this. What's he thinking? Well, let me see if I got this straight. I only heard it once. Once there was a normal Ura girl, but she wasn't born in the Tassel terminals like the rest of her people. She was from Ceylondia. Her folks were orphaned in the war, taken in and raised inside the city, on condition they would never return to the terminals. Refugees who came into the city had to stay for life. It was a way to reduce the risk of city secrets leaking out. Her mama passed away from birthing complications, leaving the girl trapped inside that city with no one but her father. Her father was sharper than a brusher's pike, so he got a job working for the city's mancers. His daughter barely saw him. Her father told her nothing of her heritage. He told her nothing of the Mansers. It's for your own good, he said. She took to studying the arts, learned more through music than history books, gained a knack for strings and songs. At first, she tried to be like other girls, but her classmates spread word that her father was an Ura trader, selling out the city. One young man stood up for her, or so he led her to believe. He knew much of her heritage, and she grew fond of him. The young man convinced her to take him to her family den to meet her father. Spoke of how he wanted to meet a man from the terminals. When the young man greeted her father in the Ura's native language, her father flew into a fit of rage and threw them out. The young man never told her that the Ura's native language is not to be used by foreigners. To do so is a terrible insult. It was then that she decided to escape. The two of them could flee the city together and go to the Tassel terminals. They would hide inside a garbage bin until it got ingested by a scumbag, then let him slosh on out of the city for disposal. Her plan almost succeeded, but the authorities were already there when that scumbag sidled up to the city walls. The young man had sent the authorities a tip. Told him her father was using her to sell secrets to the Tassel terminals. She and her father were arrested for treason, but her father got a deal. Returned to work for the Mansers, and she'd go free. Before they parted ways for the last time, her father whispered a desperate plea. Hurry home to the den and lock yourself in. She did as she was told, and deep down underground inside that den, she found a journal written in her father's hand. The next day, the door to the den turned to ash. The girl came up for air, and she saw the calamity all around her. When the kid wakes up, his world's still in pieces, just the way he left it.